bread, blood, and the sacred symbol. These images are not merely material but carry profound layers of meaning that we must confront in our own journey. When you look at a piece of bread, you do not see merely a mundane food item, but a part of life, a part of sacrifice. Amidst the slices of bread, amidst its broken crumbs, lies a story of devotion and nourishment. These images touch something deep within you, a longing, an absence, a presence that is both life and death. Bread, perhaps, is not just sustenance. It is a symbol of sacrifice, of spiritual and physical nourishment. But when you see blood, you do not see only death, but life and rebirth. Both blood and bread, though seemingly opposites, share a common essence: resurrection. Blood spills in sacrifice, in the breaking of oneself, and from those fragments, bread is reborn, bringing forth life. This is the process Jung call individuation, the journey that leads a person from the darkness of the unconscious into the light of consciousness. But could it be that in facing bread and blood, we are confronting our own shadow? The shadow, those repressed parts of our being we dare not touch. Are you afraid? Bread and blood do not merely reflect this fear. They are an invitation. Face it. Sacrifice to find new life. Do you see the fear within you? The fear of sacrifice, of death, of loss, things we so often flee from. Yet, through this confrontation, you may find rebirth. Between bread and blood lies a new beginning, an invitation. Are you ready to face yourself, to step onto this path of challenge and sacrifice? Now that you have begun to recognize the profound meaning of bread and blood, you must confront an even more complex challenge. You must courageously step into the darkness of the unconscious. This is where the forgotten parts of yourself hide. The parts you do not wish to acknowledge yet are always present in the form of fears, désir, and inner conflicts. As Jung have said, what we refuse to face within ourselves comes to us as darkness and negative images. Bread and blood do not only represent sacrifice and nourishment, they are images that help us identify the shadow we have concealed. The image of bread may evoke material nourishment, but it is also an image of an invisible sacrifice, where life flows from death. When we see bread, we also see the image of blood, the death of a part of our being, of the ego itself. But the crucial point is this: death is not the end, it is an invitation to rebirth. In my symbols, blood and bread coexist as a pair of opposites that complement each other. Blood flows within bread and gives rise to new life. This can be seen as a metaphor for the process of individuation, which I described in Aeon and Man and his symbols. To achieve wholeness, you must confront and reconcile with your repressed parts. But this is not an easy path. When we step into our shadow, facing suffering, fear, and deep wounds, we are confronting what cannot be controlled. This evokes a key element of individuation, accepting the lack of control, of the fragmentation of the self, and the necessity of integrating these parts into a fuller understanding of oneself. Bread and blood may be images of an ancient ritual, of devotion in a religious or sacred context, but the parts hidden in darkness are like rituals of the unconscious, where every shadow, every repressed part is an archetype yet to be explored. The shadow, as I have said, is the part of you that you do not wish to see. Yet, it is the most essential part in the journey to find yourself. Thus, as you continue this journey, imagine stepping into the forest of the unconscious, where no clear light shines, where darkness envelops everything. In this darkness, bread and blood are not merely symbols of nourishment and sacrifice, but doorways leading you into a space where you must learn to live with the uncontrollable parts of yourself. They may be the suffering you have denied, the fears you have ignored, but they are also the path to growth and self-acceptance. When you face this truth, you will begin to feel the fragmentation of your being. But in that process, you will also realize that the shadow, though seemingly unbearable, is the key to wholeness. I believe that when we cease denying our shadow, when we no longer fear the dissolution of our being, that very shadow becomes a part of us, a driving force, a new source of energy, the light of bread and blood, of sacrifice and rebirth, will shine within the very darkness you face. Remember that every step in this journey requires courage. Courage to face the parts of yourself you have forgotten. Courage to confront suffering, and courage to live fully, embracing both light and darkness. As you progress further in the journey, you will encounter deeper archetypes, images and symbols that are inevitable in the unconscious, always present within you, whether you recognize them or not. One of the most significant archetypes you will face is the shadow. The shadow is not an alien entity, something to be banished or repelled. It is a part of you, the part you have been unable to accept or unwilling to see. However, if you continue to reject the shadow, you will never achieve the inner reconciliation you seek. The shadow is complex and fearsome. It is not merely the negative aspects of you being the dark, sinful, or forbidden desires. It also contains qualities you may not have recognized in yourself, potentials you have refused to develop. Bread and blood are symbols of nourishment and sacrifice, but the shadow is the indispensable part of completing this journey. The shadow will continue to haunt you if you do not accept it. But when you courageously face it, when you embrace the shadow as an essential part of the individuation process, you will begin to see light from it, creativity, growth and liberation from the illusions you have lived with for so long. This is an indispensable part of self-discovery. Bread nourishes your body, and blood, with all its sacrifice, nourishes your soul. Both require sacrifice, but also provide life. You cannot have a full life without confronting the shadow in your dreams, in the parts of yourself you have rejected or cannot face. The symbols of bread and blood appear not only in religious contexts, but also in myths and cultural narratives of the East and West, in Greek mythology. For instance, the shadow of Heracles is an inseparable part of his journey. Confronting and battling that shadow is not just about facing fears, but a crucial part of growth and development. The shadow, like in the myth of heroes, can be seen as a challenge, one that each person must overcome to achieve wholeness. But the shadow is not only darkness, it can also be the insightful, powerful, and creative part you have kept hidden. When you confront and reconcile with this shadow, you will see that it is not an enemy to be eliminated, but a vital part of you, a part that, if unaccepted, will always remain a latent danger, a shadow ever lurking. Bread and blood are not mere concrete objects. They are sacred symbols of sacrifice and rebirth, of the new life you will find when you dare to look into your own shadow. Bread is the sustenance that nourishes the body. But blood beyond life itself is what is necessary to nourish the soul, leading you to the deepest parts of yourself you never recognized before. In this way, the shadow and the light are no longer opposites. They intertwine and support each other to lead to wholeness. The shadow you face is not only what you despise in yourself, but also the unacknowledged qualities you may feel as though you're walking a familiar path, but in truth, you are traversing uncharted territory possibilities, dizzy potentials you have yet to embrace. In this process, you will realize that accepting your shadow allows you to be reborn. As Jung, have said, the shadow is not in opposition to the ego, but the self yet unseen. This brings you to a critical turning point in individuation, not the exclusion of the shadow, but its integration into your being as an indispensable part of your existence. This reconciliation is not merely about accepting the negative parts of yourself, but about understanding, loving, and developing them to become a powerful force in your life. When you step beyond the comfort zone of the false self, you will realize that darkness and light are not opposites, but essential parts of your growth. You need both to live fully and achieve wholeness in this life. As you continue your journey, the shadow ceases to be a separate entity and becomes a part of your life, en indispensable part. At this moment, blood and bread, the symbols of nourishment and sacrifice, open a new horizon. Just as in ancient religious rituals, where bread and blood symbolize eternal life. They are not mere material objects. They carry profound meaning, representing what is necessary for you to grow and be reborn. They are what nourish, refine, and renew you, allowing you to transcend the barriers of the unconscious. Blood is life, but it is also sacrifice, one of the most powerful symbols in human history. From sacred rituals to great deeds, blood is not merely a biological substance. It is the deep essence of sacrifice. The acceptance that a part of you must forever depart to be reborn. Within your shadow, there are things that must be let go. Old habits, false beliefs, illusions about yourself. Blood is the symbol of the sacrifice you must undergo to continue living, to live as a fuller being. Bread, on the other hand, is the nourishment of the body. But it is not only material sustenance. Bread is spiritual nourishment. You will notice that while the shadow brings challenges and difficult emotions, bread brings restoration. It helps you reconnect with yourself, like a rebirth. The act of bread is the nourishment you need on your journey. Without nourishment, without the strength to face the shadow, you cannot move forward. You need a solid foundation, a connection to yourself and the world around you. When blood and bread combine, they create a harmony between sacrifice and life. Bread nourishes you, giving you the strength to face the shadow. Blood, through rebirth, helps you confront and transcend the darkness within. Both work in harmony, like elements in an alchemical process. You cannot have one without the other. Both are essential for profound change and psychological evolution. Your journey now is one of integration. You are no longer merely a person living in darkness or seeking light. You no longer feel the need to hide the dark parts of yourself. You begin to realize that light and darkness are two sides of the same entity, Blood and bread are not separate entities, but complementary parts, together helping you grow and become whole. As in a sacred ritual, you must nourish yourself not only through the body, but through the spirit. This act is not easy. It demands dedication and courage. You will have to face aspects you do not wish to see and understand, that only by having the strength to accept them can you achieve clarity in your soul. As I have said, we cannot truly grow until we dare to face our own shadow. Blood and bread are symbols of nourishment. In this journey they give you the strength to confront and transcend the darkness within. But they are also what allow you to be reborn, enabling you to grow, understand, and integrate all parts of your being. This is the moment to embrace all that you are and step out of your comfort zone, beginning a journey of rebirth. The shadow and the light, blood and bread, all form a harmonious whole. They are not separate elements, but indispensable parts of your becoming a fuller person. At this point, you have passed through the shadow, through blood and bread. The symbols you have embraced, nourished, and sacrificed for. But there is one final stage, a more significant transformation you must undertake. You are no longer the person who once feared facing their own darkness. The shadow has now become a part of you, no longer an enemy, but a companion on the path of individuation. It helps you see more clearly, to gain deeper awareness of the unexpressed aspects of yourself. So, what must you do next? At this moment, you are no longer a separate individual from the world, but a part of a greater whole, a part of the cosmic flow. You have confronted and harmonized with the shadow. Now is the time to step beyond the personal self, to become part of the universal whole. The light of rebirth will not only illuminate you, but everything you touch. This light is not something simple or easily grasped. It is not merely an awareness of your being, but a profound connection to the collective unconscious. As I once wrote, light comes when darkness is faced and accepted. This light is not the radiant light of reason, but a sacred light, emerging from the depths of the unconscious, from the unknown parts of your being. In this journey, you realize that only by opening your heart, by daring to accept both the shadow and the light, can you truly understand the harmony of the archetypes within you. Every part of you, from the shadow, blood, the bread, to the light, intertwines, forming a wholeness. The light is no longer something distant, but something you have embraced within yourself. When you confront and harmonize with the darkness, when you truly live with your full being, you will see that nothing is permanently separate. The shadow is no longer something to avoid. It is a part of you along with the light. They form an inseparable whole. You become a complete individual, no longer afraid, no longer anxious about confronting the darkness in your soul. You realize that clarity comes only when you allow the darkness to step in and become a part of your life. And that is when you truly feel eternal life. Like bread and blood, like sacrifice and nourishment, this journey is not a simple one. It demands immense courage. But once you truly accept and integrate all parts of your being, you will find a wholeness in your soul, a completeness where there is no longer a division between darkness and light, between sacrifice and life. You become a part of a greater whole where everything has a purpose, everything is connected, and ultimately you will see that every part of you contributes to creating a harmonious and complete world. And so you have become a new person, whole, integrated and clear. accepting all parts of yourself, from the shadow to the light,